Most countries build nuclear weapons so no one attacks them. They keep them hidden, quiet, and use them as a threat. But what if one country didn't just want to have the bomb, but actually wanted to use it? That's what author and journalist Syed suggests in one of the most intense conversations on the Triggernometry podcast, hosted by Konstantin Kisin and Francis Foster. In this episode, Syed lays out an explosive argument that shakes everything we think we know about war, religion, power, and the future of humanity. This is not another video about Middle East politics. This is a story about fanaticism, survival, and the terrifying logic of a government that might welcome death more than life. There are 10 powerful takeaways coming up, and if you think you've heard it all before, think again. Let's dive in. Takeaway 1. Why Iran might actually use the bomb. Syed opens with a chilling idea. Unlike countries like Russia or North Korea, Iran's leaders may not fear nuclear destruction. In fact, he argues, some of them might actually welcome it. He explains that Iran's ruling elite are not just political leaders. They are religious fanatics. These are people who glorify martyrdom. In their worldview, dying while destroying your enemy could mean eternal reward. He shares a brutal example from the Iran-Iraq War. Thousands of children were brainwashed to run into minefields to clear a path for the adult soldiers. These kids were not trained fighters. They were just boys, some as young as 10, promised paradise if they died for the cause. Their limbs were left scattered across the battlefield, and the government celebrated their deaths as holy victories. Now imagine that same leadership with a nuclear button. Syed warns that Iran might not follow the rulebook of mutually assured destruction. They might see the death of their enemies and themselves as a sacred mission. Compared to someone like Putin, who enjoys luxury, wealth, and survival, Iran's leaders could actually choose death if they believe it brings them closer to their God. That is why, Syed says, if they get a nuclear weapon, they might not just store it. They might actually use it. Now that you understand what makes this threat different, let's look at how Israel became the center of Iran's obsession. Takeaway 2. Iran and Israel were always on a collision course. According to Syed, the tension between Iran and Israel was never just about politics. It was baked into the region's structure. Iran uses groups like Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon to attack Israel without ever getting directly involved. These groups act like the arms of an octopus, reaching out to strike, while the head, meaning Iran, stays safe and untouched. He compares this to a fight where your enemy keeps sending people to punch you in the face, but they never show up in the ring themselves. Israel spends millions defending against cheap rockets, while Iran watches from a distance. Over time, this bleeds Israel's strength and reputation. Some Israeli leaders, like Naftali Bennett, argued that Israel should go after the source, not just the symptoms. Instead of swatting at the tentacles, he said, they needed to strike the head. This logic is now being used to justify Israel's recent moves against Iran. But the stakes are far higher than most people understand. Still, not everyone agrees. Some say this is just another war, like Iraq or Afghanistan. But is it? Takeaway 3. Why this is not like Iraq or Afghanistan. Many people hear talk of regime change or nuclear threats and instantly think of Iraq in 2003 or Afghanistan after 9/11. But Syed insists this is a very different situation. He opposed the Iraq War because the evidence for weapons of mass destruction was weak. The West also had no clear plan for what would happen afterward. Instead of peace, Iraq fell into chaos. But with Iran, Syed says the threat is real and well documented. International watchdogs have already caught Iran breaking nuclear agreements. They are enriching uranium far beyond peaceful levels and building delivery systems like ballistic missiles. The risk is not a theory. It is visible, traceable, and growing. And here's the worst part. If Iran gets the bomb, it will not stop there. Other countries like Saudi Arabia will want their own nukes. The Middle East could become a nuclear minefield, and unlike Iraq, where the damage was mostly regional, this could affect the whole world. If that sounds scary, wait until you hear how Hamas helped trigger the next step in this crisis. Takeaway 4. How Gaza turned into a propaganda goldmine. Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th was brutal and shocking. But Syed believes that was just step one. The real goal was to provoke Israel into overreacting. And according to him, it worked. After the attacks, Israel launched massive airstrikes in Gaza. These strikes destroyed neighborhoods and killed thousands. Many of the targets were hidden among civilians, which made it almost impossible to attack without causing collateral damage. Hamas knew this. They set up their command centers near hospitals, schools, and homes. So when Israel responded, the world saw heartbreaking images of destroyed buildings, starving families, and dead children. These images flooded social media and news outlets, and suddenly, the sympathy that Israel had in the early days began to fade. Now, even people who once supported Israel are questioning its actions. And Hamas gets exactly what it wanted: global outrage and division. But the real damage may take even longer to unfold. Takeaway 5. Gaza war might breed future terrorists. Syed explains that violence often leads to more violence. In Gaza, when a child sees their home destroyed or their parents killed, they are not likely to become peace activists. They are more likely to grow up angry, bitter, and ready for revenge. He mentions that for every militant Israel kills, 5 more may be radicalized in response. These are not just numbers, they are people. Teenagers who will one day become the next wave of fighters, bombers, or online recruiters. This is why Syed believes bombing Gaza will not make Israel safer in the long run. It might actually do the opposite. It plants the seeds for a new generation of hate that could last 50 years or more. But this cycle is hard to break, especially when you don't fully understand the society you are trying to change. We're halfway through the video. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. If you'd like to support us, please tap the thanks button below. It helps us keep making great content. Drop a comment and don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Why the West will never understand Iran. Syed argues that Western leaders often make the mistake of thinking everyone thinks like them. But Iran is not like the West. Its society is built on different values, different loyalties, and different histories. In past wars like Iraq and Afghanistan, Western analysts completely misunderstood tribal and ethnic dynamics. They thought democracy would just work, as if you could copy and paste it into any country. Iran is also complex. Most of the population is Persian, but there are many ethnic minorities. There are ancient power structures and deep-rooted religious divisions. Polls suggest that 70% of the population hates the regime. But even if it falls, there is no guarantee what replaces it will be better. This is not a board game. It is a country filled with people who have seen sanctions, war, and religious police for decades. Anyone who wants to intervene needs to understand that first. And even if the West understands, that does not mean it is ready to act. Takeaway 7. The West may not be ready for a real war. Syed raises a difficult question. If a full-scale war breaks out, are countries like the United States and the United Kingdom actually ready? He says the answer might be no. Many Western countries have small defense budgets. They do not produce enough weapons or supplies. Worse, they are borrowing money to keep up normal life instead of preparing for serious conflict. And then there is the cultural problem. In many schools and universities, young people are taught to hate their own countries. They are told their nations were built on racism and exploitation. If you do not believe your country is worth defending, will you be willing to fight for it? Syed fears that when the time comes, we may not have the tools or the will to respond. This brings us to the next big shift, one that is already happening across younger generations. Takeaway 8. Support for Israel is fading among the young. Syed shares that public opinion is changing fast. While older people still support Israel, many younger people are more sympathetic to Palestinians. This is not just about politics, it is about emotion. Young people are growing up seeing Gaza on their phones, not the Holocaust in their textbooks. They see starving children, not historical context. These images stay in their minds and shape how they think. Over time, this could change foreign policy. Future leaders may no longer see Israel as a valuable ally, especially if public support keeps falling. And that shift is being fueled by something even deeper. Takeaway 9. The real reason young people hate Israel. One reason support is fading is that the Israel-Palestine conflict is not just seen as a land dispute. For many, it looks like oppression and injustice. Syed shares stories from his own experience in the West Bank. He says most people he met supported Hamas and wanted Israel gone entirely. These were not just extremists. They were everyday people who had grown up with a deep hatred of Israel. And often, the hatred of Israel blends into hatred of Jews in general. In many parts of the Arab world, including among Christians, anti-Semitic views are passed down through families like old stories. Syed says this kind of hatred is deep, emotional, and not easy to erase. That hatred creates the atmosphere that makes peace nearly impossible. Takeaway 10. The dangerous reason Iran wants nukes. To wrap up, Syed brings us back to the bigger picture. Iran does not just want nuclear weapons for power. It wants them to change the balance of the world. Once Iran has the bomb, it becomes untouchable. It can support terrorism, threaten its neighbors, and silence internal opposition without fear of attack. Other countries will then rush to build their own bombs, starting a chain reaction of nuclear madness. And because the Iranian regime may not fear its own destruction, the usual rules of deterrence may not apply. That is what makes this moment so dangerous, and why the world cannot afford to look away. The most dangerous weapon is not a bomb. It is the belief that dying for your cause is better than living in peace. That belief, when backed by nuclear power, becomes a global threat. Matthew Syed did not come on Triggernometry to scare people. He came to warn them. And after hearing his case, one thing is clear. The rules of the game are changing. We better understand them before it is too late. If this video opened your eyes to something new, subscribe for more. And ask yourself, if they would really use the bomb, what are we doing to stop them? Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.